Probably been hearing a lot about the Delta variant of the coronavirus lately.
Yeah, now we are getting a much clearer picture of how and why this particular variant is causing so many problems. Rekha Mudaraj connects the dots.
We are getting some disturbing information about just how quickly the Delta variant can spread from our friends down under. Let's connect the dots. Scientists have already determined that the Delta variant of COVID-19 is much more transmissible than any other versions out there. The variant first identified in India is estimated to be 60% more contagious than the variant that surfaced in England. It's spreading globally, including in Australia. Now, officials in Australia are revealing how simple contact can help the Delta variant spread. In New South Wales, a government official said surveillance video showed the virus spread between two people who briefly walked past each other in a mall. They were only near each other for 5 to 10 seconds and they never physically touched. This is a big change from the start of the pandemic. Back then, scientists said it took 15 minutes of close contact for COVID-19 to jump from one person to another. The new evidence that it now can spread in just seconds could be a feature of the Delta variant, and it could explain why it's spreading so successfully. Connecting the dots, I'm Rekha Mudaraj for KHOU 11 News.